What's up, guys? This is Coach Jimmy from Modern Athlete Strength. We're continuing our program design series here. Basically, now we're putting all the pieces together and putting it into a template. This template in particular is the tier system. We're going to go through everything from warm-ups all the way to accessory work, as well as work capacity finishers. So here in front of you guys is an example of an Excel template. Okay, this is day one here. Every day, I like to start with some sort of warm-up / prehabs. So as you can see, the categories here: increase core body temperature. So what that means is basically just warm up. So essentially something to get your heart rate up, whether it's bike warm up, treadmill, easy pace jog, jump rope, something to get your core body temperature up. From there, we go into lower body mobility / then lower body activation. Then we go into upper body mobility, upper body activation, ankle mobility, knee stability, core stability. Okay, you guys can make this whatever you want. This is just an example here of a warm-up / prehabs before you get into your main movements. That's going to be the same for all 3 days. So I'm going to show you a 3-day tier system model. Every day the warm-ups are the same, at least the structure. What you put into each category is up to you as the coach and practitioner. And then from there, we'll get into the actual lifts. So in the previous series, I went over different structures and different options as far as 3-day splits, 4-day splits, 5-day splits, total body push-pull, tier system. Today, I'm going to go into the tier system 3-day template. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the total body lift category. So I'm going to show you the category and then what exercise variations can go into that category. So in this case, for total body, that could be Olympic variations. So that could be your clean progressions, whether it's hang clean, power clean, push presses, push jerks, snatches, things like that. That can all go into this total body lift category. It also could be upper and lower body plyos. That could be your various jump series, your various med ball work, things like that. That would cover your plyos for the total body lift category. You could also put kettlebell variations into this lift category, whether it's kettlebell swings, kettlebell push presses, push jerks, complexes. That could go into this category as well. Landmine variations, same type of thing. Usually like variants of the Olympic movements. So it could be push presses, push jerks, anything total body landmine wise can go into this category. And then the last one could be your deadlift variations, whether it's your standard conventional deadlift, sumo deadlift, trap bar deadlift. If you're doing conjugate and you have trap bar or deadlift with chains, bands, things like that, that could fall into this total body lift category. From there, I'm going to give you an example. So in this tier here, which is tier 1, it could vary anywhere from 3 to 10 sets. That's up to you as the practitioner. Whatever the goal is for your program is going to dictate how many sets, how many reps, things like that. I give an example of 1 to 12 plus reps, depending on what the goal is for the program. If you're going for more max effort work, it could be anywhere from 3 all the way to 1 rep. Or if you're going for more hypertrophy work, it's going to be obviously on the higher rep range in that 8 to 12 range. In this case, I have it paired with a core exercise. So everything is structured. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a category. So with total body, then it's paired with a core exercise. So in this case, it's an anti-extension exercise. So that would be things like plank variations, ab wheel, all the anti-extension exercise in this category. In this case, I have it progressed based on time. So if I was doing a plank variation, it would be a time progression. But if you were doing ab wheel or something with repetitions, it would be rep progressions there, either increasing or decreasing your volume based on the exercise and the intensity patterns you're using. Okay, moving down. So that was tier 1. Tier 2 would be lower body. So this would be any squat variation, whether it's front squat, back squat, goblet squat, Zercher squat. All of your squat variations would fall into tier 2 squat category. Okay, it also could be your unilateral category as well, whether it's step ups, reverse lunges, split squats, things like that could fall into the lower body tier 2 category. I have it paired here with a lower body activation. That would be something like your like glute activation type exercises, whether it's a banded monster walk, banded clamshell, things like that. So B1 and B2 would be paired up together there. I give you a range of 3 to 10 sets. Again, based on what you are programming or who you're programming for will dictate what you're trying to do or what you're trying to accomplish. Let's say it's dynamic effort. It may be low intensity, but you're doing maximal effort, maximal intent and dynamic effort. So you may be progressing up to 10, maybe even 12 sets there. So again, this is just broad stroke, giving you some examples and some context, but behind the exercises here. Then we go into our upper body. So again, day 1 is TLU, total lower upper. So Our next movement would be an upper body movement. This would be your press variations. So it could be bench press variations, overhead press variations. It could be your pull-up variations, things like that. If you do a press variation, then it would be paired with a pull variation. So let's say I have a dumbbell incline press for 3 sets of 12. Then it would be paired with a upper body pull, whether it's a vertical pull or a horizontal pull. A vertical pull would be your pull up, your lat pull down, things like that. Your horizontal pull would be more of your dumbbell row, your cable row, and exercise in that category. Okay. So that covers your 3 tiers. We'll get into the further tiers after I cover all 3 days, tiers 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll get into the assistance work as well as the work capacity options as you see fit. Okay, so that covers day 1. Going back up, so now looking at day 2. So day 2, we are starting at your lower body movement category here. So tier 1 would be lower. So again, this would be your squat variations, your unilateral variations. So most of the time, again, in strength and conditioning, there's no absolute, but most of the time, your tier 1 movements are most likely your foundational big compound movements, probably the movements that you may want to test at the end of a cycle. So most of the time it would be either a front squat or back squat, but that's up to you as the practitioner. Again, depending on the goal, roughly 3 to 10 sets, anywhere from 1 to 12 repetitions. Depending on the phase you're in. And in this case, I pair it with a core anti-lateral flexion. So this would be your like side plank series. This would be your suitcase carries. So anything anti-lateral flexion would be in this category. Okay. So that covers your tier 1. And again, this is meant to be some sort of side plank variation. That's why I have it progress based on time. But again, it's up to you. If you have dumbbell side bends, which is a repetition based exercise, you could absolutely put repetitions in there in place of time. This is just one example. Tier 2 would be your upper body. So going to upper body would be in this category here. Again, it would be your bench press variations, all supplemental lifts to build up whatever that tier 1 movement is. And we haven't covered day 3, which we will, but all these movements will hopefully supplement your tier 1 movement. So it would be other press variations. It could be close grip bench. It could be floor press. It could be dumbbell bench. It could be a military press, whatever you see fit in your program. It also could be your pull-up variations. And again, it ranges from roughly 3 to 10 sets based on the phase of your program or what the goal of the program is. Repetitions, again, anywhere from 1 to 12 repetitions. And I have that paired up with a upper body activation or posterior shoulder type exercise. That could be reverse flies. That could be banded face pulls. That could be band pull aparts. And that would be, you can see your progression here. Okay, so that is tier 2. Then tier 3 would be back to your total body. Okay, and the total body could be upper and lower body plyos. I usually don't put a Olympic variation in your tier 3. You could. It really depends on what the goal of the program is. Usually I save tier 3 for either plyos, kettlebell variations, landmine variations, or sometimes even deadlift variations, maybe for higher volume there. Okay. This is usually less sets, anywhere from 2 to 4 sets, and then pairing that with another total body exercise. So in this case, it would be a hip extension exercise, something to supplement whatever that total body movement is. So if you're doing a kettlebell swing, maybe it's a body weight glute bridge or single leg glute bridge, some sort of posterior chain hip extension exercise, and the repetitions anywhere from 4 to 12 repetitions. Okay, so that's the end of day 2. And then day 3, we're going to go up here. This would be your upper total lower day. So upper, this would be your main primary press movement. So your best bench press variations, most likely, like I said, your tier 1 is most likely things you want to test out at the end of a cycle. So most of the time it would be your bench press, but depending on if you're working with somebody that competes in strongman, and in strongman there's no bench press competition, so maybe you want to emphasize overhead press as the main upper body strength movement, that could fall into this category as well. The sets are anywhere from 3 to 10 sets, repetitions anywhere from 1 to 12 repetitions, and then covering the third core series here, this would be anti-rotation. So this would be any of your Palloff press variations, Palloff holds, any anti-rotation type exercise. In this case, I have time, so it could be a hold, but again, so if it's a Palloff hold and you're doing 30-second holds each side, if you're doing a press, it would be repetitions. So that's up to you as a practitioner to decide what goes there in that category. Okay, next tier 2 would be your total body lift variation. So if you choose to do total body here in this category, this would be your Olympic variations, your upper and lower body plyos, your kettlebell variations, landmine, and as well as your deadlift variations. Anywhere from 3 to 10 sets. If you opt for Olympic variations, you should be keeping the repetitions at most 6 reps, but most of the time it's 5 and below for your Olympic variations. And same thing with your plyos. If you're doing kettlebell variations, you can touch on higher volume and higher repetitions. Same thing with landmine or deadlift. And then what's paired with this would be your lower body activation, same as day one. Would be so lower body activation would be like glute activation. It could be banded lateral walks, could be clamshells, something as an activation exercise that would help the prime movers for that movement category. So in this case, total body. And then tier 3 would be your lower body movement category. So that would be squat variations and unilateral. Typically in tier 3, I stick with unilateral variations, but it all depends on what you're doing with the rest of the program. So again, as long as it's a lower body movement, it would fall into this lift category. Then it would be paired. You could pair it with various things, but in this case, it's paired with a lower body pull. So a knee dominant or hip dominant lower body pull. So a knee dominant pull would be a hamstring, like a knee dominant hamstring, which would be a machine hamstring curl, a Nordic hamstring curl, glute ham raise, things like that. A hip dominant lower body pull would be your RDL, your single leg RDL, more of a hip dominant lower body pull. And then I have the sets and the reps breakdown here. Okay, so that covers your 3x3 tier. Okay, so you have your main movements, your tier 1, your tier 2, your tier 3, and then your movement that's paired with that. Okay, so that covers all 3 days. As mentioned earlier, I wanted to cover the assistance work. So there's a lot of different ways to chop this up. I'm just showing you one example of how you could do it. On this template, I have the option to either choose accessory work or work capacity. Okay, so I'm going to show you the accessory work first. I personally believe everybody could use more posterior chain, whether that's upper body or lower body posterior chain. So the template would be as follows: lower body posterior chain, upper body posterior chain, arm/neck, other or even grip work you could throw into this category as well as far as your accessory work. So lower body posterior chain. If you didn't have a knee dominant exercise, knee dominant hamstring pull in another tier, either tier 1, 2, or 3, you could dump it in this category here. Or RDL, which would be a hip dominant hamstring lower body pull. Upper body posterior chain, that could be a band pull apart, that could be a band face pull, that could be a dumbbell shrug in that category. And then arms or neck or grip work as your D3 exercise there. And then that would be the same for each day. Obviously, you wouldn't have the same exercise every day, but the category is the same, and that would just be on you as the practitioner to give variety and give movement quality based on things you didn't cover on the first 3 tiers. Okay, so that covers that. Like I said, that would be the same for days 1, 2, and 3. Ideally, it would be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday split, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday split, just leaving 1 day of recovery in between. So that covers that. And then let's say you wanted to have work capacity in place of the assistance work for whatever reason, based on your beliefs or whatever the population you're working with. I typically like structure. So it makes it easier as the practitioner to program, because if you're constantly trying to figure out, I'm doing this for accessory work, I'm switching things up every week, it just makes life a lot easier when it comes to program design. So I typically follow the same thing for tier. So total, lower, upper, and then I add a cardio / conditioning piece at the end. So the total body category could be kettlebells, could be weighted carries or loaded carries, which would be farmer's carries, suitcase carries, sandbag, or it could be sled pushes or pulls. And you could either progress that for time, distance, or repetitions. And then your lower body push or pull based on, again, everything that precedes this. So in your tiers 1, 2, and 3, whatever you didn't cover, you could throw it in your work capacity circuit for repetitions. And then same thing with your upper body push or pull here, and then conditioning / cardio of choice. So majority of program design will be dictated by what equipment you have access to. So if you have access to every bell and whistle, every cardio equipment piece that you want, it could be echo bike, it could be rower, it could be assault runner, whatever. If you only have a jump rope, maybe jump rope is your cardio of choice. But that's typically the template I follow. There's a lot of different ways you can chop this up. It just gives you more structure to what you're doing and more consistency in your programming. It makes it easier for you as the practitioner, but it also gives more consistency in the program as well. Obviously, even though the movement category is the same, it doesn't mean you're doing the same thing for all 3 days. So in this case, I have AMRAP, which is as many rounds as possible in a set time. So as many rounds as possible in 10 minutes or 12 minutes. So I have the first 2 weeks being 10 minutes, the last 2 weeks being 12 minutes. And that's the same for all 3 days. So days 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So let's say I had farmer's carries on day 1, followed by body weight step ups, followed by pull ups, followed by jump rope. Day 2, I have sled push, body weight squat, push up, and assault runner. And then day 3, I have suitcase carry, let's say dumbbell RDL and inverted row, and then another cardio choice, maybe Jacob's ladder or something like that. Again, the category is the same, but the exercises are different. And this is over a 4-week template. So first 2 weeks being 10 minutes, last 2 weeks being 12 minutes. So you're not progressing the volume, but you are progressing the time. So you're trying to, in the first 2 weeks, you're trying to get as many rounds as possible in 10 minutes. The last 2 weeks, trying to get as many rounds as possible in 12 minutes. So using that week 1 and week 3 as your baseline. So in week 1, you have, let's say you got through 5 rounds in 10 minutes. You're trying to beat that for the second week. And then same goes for week 3. You have your baseline. Let's say you got 7 rounds in 12 minutes. You're trying to beat that 7 rounds in the 12 minutes. Okay. So that covers the tier system structure. I'm going to be covering a bunch of different templates here. This just happens to be the first one. This is the tier system template on Excel, and basically you're now plugging exercises into the movement category. So I personally, like I said, believe in having a structure to doing what you're doing, because especially if you're writing a lot of programs, you don't want to be coming up with these brand new programs from scratch. Once you have your template set and something you believe in, it makes it a lot easier to then just plug and play based on the population you're working with. So if you have somebody that you need to do Olympic lifts with, you can absolutely use hang cleans, power cleans, snatches, things like that. But let's say you have somebody that doesn't have a ton of experience with Olympic lifts or zero experience, maybe that total body lift category becomes a kettlebell swing. So it's still a total body exercise, but you don't have to worry about some of the complexities of Olympic lifts. Maybe the person you're prescribing workouts for you're not able to work with them one-on-one to work with their technique, but you still want some total body explosive movements. You can absolutely do that with a little bit simpler progressions. Whereas let's say you're in a college division 1, 2, 3 weight room, and you're seeing the same athletes for the entire year, and you want to work in some Olympic lifts and you're coaching them hands-on, that lift category may be your Olympic variations. It's all based on your situation, your weight room, what your beliefs are, your experiences, and things like that. So again, this is just one way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. In future presentations, I'll show you different options as far as templates, whether it's push-pull, whether it's upper-lower splits, things like that, and how to actually plug it into a program. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Modern Athlete Strength on Instagram. And then we'll be putting more presentations together on program design as we work through these different episodes. Thank you.